Hello and welcome to a long overdue new video. I guess this would be video number 4 from my Haunted Head podcast, very ill-conceived and poorly maintained video channel. Today I want to talk about a series that is near and dear to all of our cold dead black hearts, and that is a 1985 classic, actually celebrating its 40th anniversary this year. That would be Re-Animator, Stuart Gordon's awesome re-envisioning of H.P. Lovecraft's original story, Herbert West, Re-Animator. And I just want to kind of go over the fact that, I don't know about you, but the things that I love, I tend to collect, and I collect anything that I can find related to those things. Case in point, if I like a movie like Re-Animator, which I don't just like, I love, I don't just want to have the movie on each available new format as it comes out with new bells and whistles, and they always do, right? But I also like to have the music from the film. And I also like to have books about the film. And I like to collect anything with new and reinterpretive imagery from the film. I'm going to cover some of those things today. So I just thought I'd go through some of my collection. The only thing I did have to leave out is the Toonie Tunes, not Toonie Tunes, Toonie Time, whatever they're called. The toys that are little bendy, cartoonish looking versions of some of our favorite horror characters. I don't have my Re-Animator one dug out because it would be a Herculean task to get to it in this monstrosity of an archive closet that I have here. So you'll have to maybe I'll throw in an image of it here later so you can see what I'm talking about. But the Toonie Terrors, that's what it's called. Toonie Terrors are a lot of fun. They're fairly detailed as far as a little bendy, twisty character goes. They don't have a whole lot of accessories like the NECA figures do. And that's okay because they're actually detailed enough that they're actually a lot of fun. And they still look close to the original characters without looking overly cartoonish like the Funko Pops. And I have some Funko Pops too. Those are cool for what they are, but they're not to the level of detail that a more serious collector would enjoy, like the Toonie Terrors or the NECA figures, or even sideshow collectibles if you get into the upper end of that kind of thing. So anyhow, here we have Re-Animator. This is from the Elite DVD that came out years ago, loaded with bonus features. It was quite a find at the time. It was really nice to see a double disc set come out with all this stuff on it. But of course, over the years, we've seen a lot of newer versions of films like these come out. Live put this one out with an alternate cover. I enjoyed this artwork, but I really enjoyed the original photo artwork with Jeffrey Combs more so than this. But you know what? I have both of them on the shelf, so it's all good. This is the Blu-ray that came out. And again, it's got, when you see these new releases come out, they usually port over previous bonus features, which is always great. And it's always nice to see the word new interviews, new documentary footage, new photo gallery, things that we've never seen before in the previous editions. So there was that. Then, of course, we have Bride of Re-Animator. This is the Arrow Video edition of Bride of Re-Animator. This is a lot of fun. Arrow, they load their DVDs up with all of these bonus, sorry about my shadow there, with all of these bonus features here. And that means new interviews with all the people that we love from the films, new analyses, or maybe you have a special event, a panel of some kind, or you have a one-on-one interview at a retrospective, that kind of thing. It's always nice to see them show up because they offer new perspective on things that we've loved for so long. You can rewatch the movie and you can always pick up on little details that maybe you missed earlier on, but when you get 40 years down the road, is there really anything new that's going to pop up that you have not seen before or thought about before? Well, as it turns out, sometimes there is. So that's very cool for Bride of Re-Animator. Here's one that I wasn't sure we were going to see come out in a bells and whistles edition. It's the least of the Re-Animator films, in my personal opinion, Beyond Re-Animator. And this was put out by Lionsgate, or actually Vestron, not Lionsgate, Vestron, which is the label that has been revisited by Michael Felsher from Red Shirt Pictures. So this is great to see. Lots of bonus features on a movie that maybe some Re-Animator fans haven't even decided to watch. And that's too bad. It is at least worth a watch, even if it's not maybe quite up to the standards of the previous films. And then you have stuff like this. A huge bells and whistles edition of Re-Animator. I'm not as taken with this particular artwork, but look at this. Inside this rigid hard slipcase, we've got the discs themselves with artwork, postcards, some really interesting kind of editions that you can, I don't really know what you do with something like this. Do you put it in a photo album? Do you just leave it in the container, the original packaging, to dig out whenever you watch the movie again, just to kind of look at them? They're almost like mini lobby cards, I guess. That's probably exactly what these are. And then a booklet with detailed information, essays and whatnot, pictures from the film and the making of the film. These are always fun. They're nice to see. But if you want a lot more information, then you read this book here that came with the set. It's got a comic book adaptation of the film, which is really cool. Actually, both films. So there's that. And if it kind of gives you a different look into H.P. Lovecraft's original story and reinterpreting it for, I guess, modern sensibilities, modern audience. Something else that I like, in addition to having the movies themselves. Oh, here's another. Sorry, I left one out. Here we have the live video VHS of Bride of Re-Animator. The VHS collector's market has really taken off, and some of these are really expensive. You can find some of these videotapes for hundreds of dollars. I think I bought this one for about $5. Shocking, but oh no, that's not right. I think it was about 15. But anyway, still kind of relatively inexpensive as far as VHS tapes go. I have found some horror films, the original VHS version, or a VHS version. You know, there was Media Home Entertainment in the 80s, and then there was also the Video Treasures label, which offered some of the same films, but offered kind of a lesser quality version of it, recorded in an EP mode instead of the SP mode. But still, it's nice to get your hands on some of these VHS copies of these films. I don't know about you, but I actually still have a VCR connected in the living room. So I can actually watch the VHS version of Re-Animator, or Bride of Re-Animator rather. But do I? No, I usually just reach for the DVD or Blu-ray. There's a big soundtrack market. Nowadays it's spearheaded by Death Waltz Records, Waxwork Records particularly. And you'll see some other independent pressings from Terror Time. These are actually from a number of years ago, where you would see La La Land Records put out some of these soundtracks. And these were very cool because you could actually order them, autographed by Richard Band, composer for Re-Animator. As with films, these came out in different versions, different covers. And you would also see, in some of the case of these Richard Band soundtracks, the inclusion of soundtracks from other movies. So in this one here, we have Ghoulies and we have Re-Animator, both on one. Here's another one from Silva Screen Records, This is Re-Animator and Bride of Re-Animator together on one set. And again, these have liner notes with essays. They have some artwork. They have some photographs from the movie you don't always see. And so that makes these nice collector's items as well. Here's another for the less beloved, but also worth seeing Beyond Re-Animator with Xavier Capella's score for that film. It's put out by Screamworks. Worth getting your hands on if you're a Re-Animator fan. And again, this is just to kind of illustrate, the extent of our appreciation for these movies and how many things we think we need to have in our collection. How about your Re-Animator highlighter? Looks like a syringe. Can't go wrong with that. Might raise some eyebrows if you're using it in the office at work. Here's one of the early art pieces that I got. This is something by Joel Robinson, who has a really great art style. And this is his image of Herbert West, deep in thought, getting ready to take on his next nefarious activity, reanimating the dead. Hold on one second. I'm going to grab a stack of some other things that I want to show you. Okay, what you're looking at here is a re-release, a reprinting of the original 80s novelization of Re-Animator by Jeff Rovin. This is something that just came out a couple years ago. And, I used to have the original version of this novel, which had, if I remember correctly, had photos from the movie in the center. Why I ever got rid of it, I couldn't really tell you. There was a time about 20 years ago where I was regularly selling things on eBay, and I thought, some of these things in my collection I'm not really doing anything with, and I know there's a collector's market that's kind of blossoming out there, so why don't I take advantage of that and clear out some of the things that I wasn't really... Honestly, I don't know where my head was at the time, because now I wish I had those things back, but Re-Animator novel was one of them. I probably sold it with a Re-Animator VHS, frankly. I know I used to have one. For a while, video stores were selling the copies of Re-Animator or, all these different horror, Hellraiser, Friday the 13th, all those films. And you could get your hands on a copy fairly easily and inexpensively. But I think I paired that together with my Re-Animator novel, and there you go. Now it's gone. Wish I had it back, but I've got this one, so that's nice. This book here is Scored to Death 2, which is actually the second of a pair of books, Conversations with Horror Composers. Richard Band is featured in this in a 40-page interview talking all about the scores he did for Re-Animator and From Beyond. Well, and all the movies he did with his brother, Charles Band. This is a fun book. This is Empire of the Bees, the Mad Movie World of Charles Band. This, of course, has details about the making of and distribution of and legacy of Re-Animator, From Beyond. All those great films that Charles Band put out with Empire in the early 80s before re-emerging with Full Moon. If you want to get more directly from the source, then here's Charles Band's book, Confessions of a Puppet Master, Hollywood Memoir of Ghouls, Guts, and Gonzo Filmmaking. This is a book that I read in a single day. Really entertaining book. Love that one. If you want to get some insight into his process and his incredible history, honestly, within the film industry. Here we have the beloved and late Stuart Gordon, a book of interviews which are really great as far as getting into the process, getting inside Stuart's head, and getting some of the detail about the making of Re-Animator and From Beyond. and all the other great movies that he made. There's a couple other biographies that I have here, including this one from Kathleen Kinmont, who played, of course, the bride of Re-Animator. This is the kind of thing I find myself on a quest for. Every time I know that there's a new source out there that I can read more about these films, then I want to get my hands on it so I can do exactly that. Here's another biography, well worth your while, autobiography actually, by William Butler, who is still associated with Charles Band to this day. Tawdry Tales and Confessions from Horror's Boy Next Door. William Butler was in Tom Savini's remake of Night of the Living Dead. He was in, of course, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. He was part of the crews making From Beyond and Re-Animator. Excellent book. Hilarious, heartbreaking, lots of good stuff there. And we have, of course, to go back to the source material. How many of you have found yourself going back and reading the books by H.P. Lovecraft to read his original stories, From Beyond, a very short story in that case, or the series Herbert West Re-Animator? These are not like reading novelizations of the movie. This is just reading the source material, which in some cases is very different from what we ended up seeing on the screen, but still very much worthwhile. Let me show you something else that I've got here. Actually, I'll just leave that there. Pardon my shaky camera work. There's not an ideal place to hang out with all this stuff and show it to you. So this is the Re-Animator soundtrack that came out just a few years back with artwork by Gary Pullen, the great ghoulish Gary Pullen. You can pull him up and follow him on Instagram or Facebook. Got some amazing art. You've seen his artwork on movie releases. You've seen retrospective Mondo artwork releases, those posters. I've got a poster of that right there. And I also have the 40th anniversary poster artwork by Matt Ryan Tobin, which, sorry, you're getting all my reflections in there, but anyhow, there you go. Awesome artwork. Bruce Abbott was really impressed because he finally made the poster. He even gets the girl in the artwork. And of course I have, if you remember these, remember those old video store posters? This is an actual video store poster for Bride of Re-Animator. So forgive my shaky camera work. This is a kind of an awkward place that I'm sitting here. But I wanted to share some of the stuff in my collection because I wanted to ask you, what kind of things do you collect? Do you collect the movies themselves and you're pretty well good with that? Do you collect movies and the toys? Do you collect movies, books about the movies? The music, books about the music of the movies? I mean, there's so many different things, and that's my problem, is running out of space because I like to collect everything that I like. Can't always do that either. It's really hard. There's always so much stuff out there. There's always something more out there that you don't have. And sometimes you get a little bit of anxiety about that fear of missing out. It's like, oh my gosh, if I don't get my hands on that, what am I going to do? You'll survive. I have a lot of stuff related just to Re-Animator, and I love it all. But there's more out there that I don't have my hands on, and maybe I will at some point, maybe I won't, but it's always an ever-growing passion to pursue. Now, I could show you my George Romero collection, which eclipses this tenfold, which is crazy. So many different versions of the same movies, different releases with new bonus features. And if you love stuff as much as I do, you want to know what you didn't already know yet. So when there's a new interview, when there's a new documentary, when there's a new focus on something that has been out, regardless, whether it's something that's been out 10 years, 50 years, whatever it is, if you love it, you want to know more about it. You want to get your hands on it. You want to experience new artwork, new reinterpretations. I was talking with Gary Pullen at the last Texas Frightmare weekend, and when we were talking about the artwork that you do for movies and how to reinterpret something that people have seen time and again, and they're really well-versed in it. It's a passion. They love it. They know everything about it. How do you make something like Re-Animator? How do you make something like that fresh again? How do you offer them a new way of seeing something that they've seen time and time again? Sometimes they can pull it off. And I just have to sit back and marvel at the talent of somebody like that who can do that. Matt Ryan Tobin, Gary Pullen. There's a bunch of artists out there. Jason Edmiston, there's another one. So I hope you enjoy this warts and all video about Re-Animator. What do you like to collect? Do you have any really cool stuff from Re-Animator that I haven't talked about? Leave a comment. Let me know. Leave a photo if you can. Let me know. Follow me on My Haunted Head podcast over on Instagram. You can leave comments over there and tell me what your passion is. Is there something you like to see more of as far as a collection that I've got here? I've got tons of soundtracks. I've got 900 books that I can go through. Most of them are horror and horror-related reference books. Lots of toys, lots of everything, because I collect everything, because I'm maniacal, just like you probably are too. So until the next video, until the next episode of My Haunted Head podcast, which is available on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app, I will see you soon. Stay haunted.